Marvel Studios just confirmed it. The official synopsis for Avengers Doomsday states plainly that the X-Men live in their own universe, and an incursion is what drags them into the main MCU timeline. For years, that was just a theory fans whispered about in comment sections. Now it's canon. So the real question isn't whether the incursion is happening, it's how it started. And once you trace it back, you realize the Avengers have been quietly building toward this apocalypse since 2019, one small decision at a time. Before we get into it, if you're new here, hit subscribe, because we break down a new MCU mystery like this every single day. First, the basics. An incursion happens when a new timeline splits off from the original one, grows into its own full universe, and eventually collides with another universe that's doing the exact same thing. In the MCU, that split almost always comes from one of three things: time travel, multiverse hopping, or using an object like the Darkhold to reach into a reality you don't belong in. Once two of those universes touch, the barrier between them starts to collapse. That's an incursion. Here's where it gets interesting, because the first incursion-causing event didn't come from a villain. It came from Captain America. At the end of Avengers Endgame, Steve Rogers travels back in time and chooses to stay in the past with Peggy Carter, building a life instead of returning to the present. According to the MCU's own time travel rules laid out explicitly in Loki, that decision doesn't erase the future. It branches it. The moment Steve chose to stay, a brand new timeline peeled off from the main one, and the Doomsday trailer strongly suggests this exact branch is where Doctor Doom's story begins. But then something changed. If new timelines are supposed to be found and pruned by the Time Variance Authority, why wasn't Steve's branch destroyed the second it formed? Hold that question, because the answer ties every single one of these events together, and it isn't what you'd expect. The second event, Doctor Strange and the Darkhold. Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness is the film that first confirmed incursions could be triggered by dreamwalking, a Darkhold ritual that lets a user possess their own variant in another universe and control their body remotely. Wanda uses it repeatedly throughout the film. Sinister Strange had already used it before her, and by the movie's climax, our Doctor Strange uses it too, just to stop Wanda. In the post-credits scene, Clea arrives specifically to tell him he's caused an incursion. That's not fan theory, that's the film stating it outright. Multiverse of Madness is confirmed on screen as one of the incursion's origin points. Now here's where the story gets messier, because not every confirmed event people cite online is actually accurate. And this next one is a good example. A lot of breakdowns lump Deadpool 2's ending together with Deadpool and Wolverine's time travel chaos as if they're the same event. They're not, and the distinction matters. In Deadpool 2, Wade uses Cable's time travel device to save Vanessa and his X-Force teammates, and to fix Cable's own future. That's the 2018 film. It's Deadpool and Wolverine, the 2024 film, where Wade travels between timelines entirely, kills a variant of himself, and crosses into the real timeline to interact with Wolverine and, in a fourth wall gag, Ryan Reynolds himself. Both films involve serious multiverse tampering, but if Deadpool now exists inside MCU continuity and Deadpool and Wolverine confirms he does, then both movies' events follow MCU time travel rules, and both would have spun off new branching timelines. So yes, Deadpool's fingerprints are on this incursion too, just not for the reasons some breakdowns claim. Which brings us to the X-Men themselves, and the event most people forget entirely. In X-Men, Days of Future Past, the X-Men are facing extinction, so they send Wolverine's consciousness back into his past body to prevent the disaster before it starts. It works. The mutants who were supposed to die survive. That's not a minor tweak, that's a full rewrite of that universe's history, which means a new timeline, a new universe, branching off from the original X-Men continuity. And according to recent reporting, the X-Men shown in the Doomsday trailers are specifically the ones from this altered timeline, the survivors of Wolverine's fix. Worth being upfront here, that detail comes from set reports and trailer analysis, not an official confirmation, so treat it as a strong theory rather than a locked fact. Sticking with the X-Men universe, the Marvels gave us a much more concrete clue. In its climax and post-credits scene, Monica Rambeau discovers a multiversal rift, tries to seal it, and instead gets pulled through into another universe entirely. The scene confirms she lands in the X-Men's world, likely the same branch created by Wolverine's timeline fix. And that matters, because rifts like this aren't random glitches. They're an early symptom of an incursion already underway, two universes losing the barrier between them. That exact symptom shows up again in Spider-Man: No Way Home. Strange's spell goes wrong. Multiple universes worth of villains and Spider-Man spill into one reality, and by the time the dust settles, one universe's Green Goblin has crossed over and killed this reality's Aunt May. That's not a small ripple. That's a character being removed from the timeline by a force that was never supposed to exist there. On its own, that's enough to spin off a new branch in Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man universe. And it happens twice, because Peter also sends home a group of villains who were supposed to die in their own timelines and instead lets them live. Two major rewrites, one movie. Quick gut check before we move on. Do you think Marvel is going to bring both Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man into Doomsday or Secret Wars? Let me know where you land on that. Back to Endgame, because two more events from that film get overlooked constantly. When Thanos and his entire past army travel forward into the present to fight the Avengers, that's not a neutral act. It creates a new past timeline where Thanos never launches that final assault, meaning he never dies in that branch's future. Gamora does the same thing in reverse, staying behind in the present instead of returning to her own timeline. Two more branches. Two more universes quietly forming in the background of a movie everyone's already seen 5 times. So by now, you're probably asking the same question we raised earlier. Why didn't the TVA stop any of this? Every one of these events should have triggered a pruning, and the answer is one word: Loki. After Endgame, Loki ends up inside the TVA, and by the end of his second season, he takes control of the multiverse itself, becoming what the show calls the God of Stories. Before that point, the TVA enforced a single sacred timeline, no branching allowed. But Loki's final act is to let every timeline branch freely, permanently. That single decision is why none of these events got pruned. Steve's branch, Strange's incursion, Deadpool's timeline hopping, Wolverine's fix, Monica's rift, Peter's spell, Thanos and Gamora's jump back, none of it gets erased, because the being now holding the multiverse together made the choice to let it grow in every direction at once. One clarification worth making here: Loki doesn't give free will as a single one-time event inside the show's plot. It's closer to him restructuring how the TVA operates going forward. But the outcome is the same either way. Nothing gets pruned, and every branch listed above survives long enough to collide with the others. If you had to guess, which of these 9 events do you think collides hardest in Doomsday itself? Type your pick in the comments. I want to see what people are actually predicting before December 18th. 9 separate choices, 9 separate branches, none of them stopped, because the one person meant to police the timeline chose to let it all run wild instead. That's not a plot hole. According to the MCU's own internal logic, that's the entire setup for the war Doctor Doom is about to start. If this connected some dots for you, subscribe for daily MCU videos. We're breaking down everything leading into Doomsday between now and December 18th.